Hello, this is Jim Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Let's get right into it. First, we have censored on free speech platform Twitter account tracking Elon Musk's jet moves to Freds from NBCNews.com by Donald Key. And I think, that's free speech, but, you could argue that stalking might be considered a NAT violation. I personally am a free speech absolute, so I think you should be able to post anyone's location at any time, regardless of how dangerous it might be, because free speech is something I believe that is inherently dangerous, and I think this is a good instance of that, yeah. Then we have Moms of Liberty by Crackerjack, and that's a self-post. They say, really, is a Syria game? The Republicans just stealing your stick, now they're rocking instead of you. I'm not grasping how this is a viable platform. I wish it was. And I said, I said, Moms for Liberty is a more conservative group. I would agree. A lot of libertarian symbols have been co-opted by conservatives, sadly, because that sometimes is how life goes. Sometimes another group co-opts your symbols and you got nothing you can do about it. So that's life sometimes. Then we have Oklahoma judge dismisses Tulsa race massacre reparations case filed by last known survivors from CNN by Ninja Lover. And I personally would say that, the massacre was long enough ago that I don't know if we can justify reparations for it, because most of the people who did the massacre are now dead, except for those guys, and they're probably going to be dead soon. So I don't really know what we should be, because, every if we justify reparations for every time someone's ever been wrong, we'd be justifying them for pretty much everything, because, life is inherently something where you get wronged a lot of the time, I would say. Don't keep parents in the dark about genetic risks in their families from Reason.com by Ninja Lover. I agree with that, we have to be open about what genetic risks people have, and what, especially if they were to reproduce, and how, they might affect, the long-term family line, I would say. Then we have Twitter blue accounts fill Ukraine war misinformation from BBC.com by Ninja Lover, and I said, when they say misinformation, they mean any dissent whatsoever. So, it could be misinformation, but when they just are going to label anything they don't like as misinformation, and that's what we've increasingly seen time and time again. So that's what I would say there. Then we have the Chinese Exclusion Act reshaped America in 1882, and it's still echoing today, from CNN by Ruin My Circle Jerk. And I would agree with that. We shouldn't be justifying excluding people for whatever reason, and I think the Chinese Exclusion Act is a good example as to why. Then we have 7 GOP attorneys general frightened target over pride display from LGBTQNation.com by Whittling Dan. And that's the thing is, I think pride companies should be able to display whatever they want, but I guess if the government feels frightened, I think they, you can make the libertarian argument they should be able to do whatever they want. I personally think, I don't think we should be justifying courts of law censoring, chomping down free expression, but it looks like we might be doing that soon anyway, so we'll have to see what goes down there. Then we have Libertarian PBS from Reason.com by We the People. And I've seen that movie came out 2 years ago. It's nice, I like how I would say, the PBS NPR aren't too libertarian. I personally would defund, despite how much time I watched PBS Kids when I was younger, back when I was 5 or 6. So, but the thing is that I don't know if spending money on a government radio station and television channel are the best long-term institutions, especially when that money could be going elsewhere. So that's my thoughts there. Then we have U.S. government files emergency stay to keep censoring Americans on social media from the Politics Brief, and I posted that. I said, really goes to show what kind of world we live in, where the U.S. is pretty much just becoming another China. You know, the U.S. government is trying its hardest to censor dissent, as seen here. And you see that in the previous article that reads and shared on subject. Contrary to Riley's claim, the FBI has done precisely that. For instance, the FBI frequently flagged joke tweets about the 2020 election and asked moderators to Twitter to take them down. The White House itself did the very same thing. As Doherty pointed out in his ruling, White House Digital Strategy Director Rob Flaherty personally appealed to Twitter to remove an account that parodied Biden's granddaughter. Please remove this account immediately, wrote Flaherty. 45 minutes later, Twitter complied. So they're not technically being forced to, but they're being clearly pushed to, and I think that is kind of the same thing in my opinion. Mark Zuckerberg and Meta say de-amplifying anger on threads is a recipe for a more public platform, but it's not. It's a recipe for censorship, repression, and totalitarianism. Truly, free speech isn't harmless, it's dangerous, and always will be. From Michael Schellenberger on Twitter. And I shared that, and I said, agreed, freedom is dangerous, safety isn't. Most people seem more interested in safety these days, though. We need to support, people being allowed to be as dangerous as they want, and that is by supporting free speech, I would say. So, yeah, I would agree with that statement. I would say, yeah. It's my body, my choice, unless the narrative says otherwise, and that's a tweet here from Defiant L's on Twitter. And it's John Pavlitz on August 25th, 2021. He tweeted, "We can't mandate compassion, but we sure should mandate vaccines." Well, October 11th, 2022, tweeted, "The Republican Party believes you don't deserve autonomy over your own body." So, that's just what it is these days. People will follow whatever narrative they're being pushed, and they won't question it at all. And that's a scary thing, because, they'll say, oh, we're for bodily autonomy, but then they'll say, oh, we also need vax mandates because pregnancy isn't contagious. So, that's the thing. They'll always find some way to justify it because the TV gives them the way to justify it. And that's why, we have the whole NPC meme, because they'll just do whatever the TV or the media tells them to do. Then we have U.S. religious right at center of anti-LGBTQ plus message pushed around the world from The Guardian by Whittling Dan. I would agree. I would agree that the religious right in the U.S. isn't the best, but I don't know if you can blame them for all the world's problems. I would say so. That's my fault there. You just can't blame everyone in the U.S. for all the world's problems. That's seemingly what a lot of people like to do. It's just the U.S. is bad. I would agree, but every country is responsible for what happens in its own borders. I would say, and the U.S. does have a significant global outreach, but it's not the only country that has a significant global outreach. A lot of Western European countries do too, but no one ever complains about those countries, do they? No, because that would go against the narrative. A U.S. federal judge reacts to an anarchist meme about the judicial system from Hold Off Hunger, and that's a meme from the anarcho meme subreddits. Double D from Reddit and Eddie. He has the book Anarchist Facts, and it opens up. It says judges will prosecute police for brutality as much as generals will court-martial soldiers winning battles, and has a picture of the judge saying what? I guess that's correct. The thing is that authority. The systems of authority will never hold themselves accountable. That's why we have to. I think we know the system is inherently corrupt, and that's why we gotta get rid of the system as soon as possible. Because I would say that all systems are corrupt, so we gotta get rid of any system. As long as it's not enforcing it on other people. So that's my thoughts there. We have to let everyone have their own system as long as they're not pushing it on other people. And I don't know if that's possible, but I'm gonna try. We're sure as hell gonna try it to make it possible. Then we have. No discipline for Texas judge who referred to Latino defendants with racial slur. Texas Judicial Commission says a remark by Judge Alan Amos was not necessarily appropriate, but also not punishable. From HoustonChronicle.com by Whittling Dan. And I would agree with that. The thing is that the thing is that ultimately no one's going to want to punish themselves, but they will punish whoever is deemed if they dissent enough. So people can justify some heinous things, and you see it on all sides of the political spectrum. And I think This is a good example of that. Then we have Biden is attacking the legitimacy of the court from Reason TV. And I said, Trump, the election was illegitimate. The left, he's undermining faith in our government and democracy. Biden, the Supreme Court is illegitimate. The left, 100% correct, President Biden. It's, that's what I always like to say. If people don't have double standards, they won't have any standards. If the Supreme Court always ruled the way the liberals wanted to, or the leftists wanted to, they would say, oh, it's completely legitimate, but it rules the other way, oh, it's illegitimate. It's just like how they said, oh, the 2016 election was kind of illegitimate because it was hacked by Russia, and that's why, people like to say, like, oh, you can't slow down our democracy, but they always will slow down if it's the narrative enough, and that's important to remember. People will justify pretty much anything if it fits the narrative enough. That the narrative is, an extent, the new god. People will do whatever it takes to please it. Why are so many Americans anti-American? From J.T. McCollum, I posted that, and I said, the U.S. is proof that trying to please everyone pleases absolutely no one. I don't really care for the U.S., but I would agree but I think my biggest problems are with human nature and society rather than just the U.S. and government specifically. Humans tend to want to control others, and it's not something that I really care for. Humans are also innately self-serving, and I think that's important to note as well. And, that's why I think the idea of the U.S. is bad, but, every country's bad. The sad truth is the U.S. is probably in the upper half of countries worldwide when it comes to the government, even though its government is complete shit. That's how bad things are when it comes to humans. I think we just gotta. It's just not really solvable. Humans are just too complicated. I don't know if we should have government. I think we should have people taking the law into their own hands. Then we have investigations find Clarence Thomas accepted more undisclosed gifts from wealthy friends through elite association from Dangerous at 8554. And I would, and it's from The Hill, and I would agree that is something that isn't good, but you have to remember that they're all corrupt. They're just exposing Thomas's corruption because it supports the current narrative enough, I would say. And that's important to remember. But everyone will do whatever it takes to please their current narrative. And you can see that of how what news stories people share and for what reasons they share them. Mises Caucus versus Ludwig von Mises by Bubsy Fanboy. Heard something about the Mises Caucus running contrary to Ludwig von Mises' principles. Anyone can tell me how could that be so? I guess, yeah, Lynch Lever said that they booed quotes from Ludwig von Mises. The thing is that the Ludwig von Mises, the Mises Caucus is kind of just more like the edgy circle jerk caucus for the more right-wing libertarians, but everything's kind of just an edgy circle jerk these days, so I don't really think much of it. My big problem with them isn't that they're not autistic enough, I would say. We gotta really be enforcing this, not really enforcing, but really pushing this politicized autism of separating everything and everyone leaving everyone alone and then they do their own thing, I would say. And we have Europe Protected on Illegal Immigration from Patam 13. And that is just Essence opinion. So what would you vote for? One vote for current status quo, 5 votes for status quo, but all processes funded adequately and streamlined to allow for quick process. 2, significantly increase immigration allowances to say 10 times current limits, but otherwise say, and that's 2 votes for that. 14 votes for no number of immigrants allowed in, but using the same first screening process for number 2. And number 5 was no limits on immigration, no screening at all. I said I vote for the last number 5 because I believe that immigration is something that, it might be more dangerous, but, life is something that's inherently dangerous. And I don't think we should justify restricting people's freedom of movement over issues like immigration. Then we have LPNH back at it again. They tweeted, the Uyghur genocide is fake and Ukraine is gay, hashtag fake and gay. And I said, I personally disagree with that, but they should be allowed to think what they want and say what they want. So that's my fault there. And we have This Guy Gets It from Bob W. McGrath, and that's a video from Bad Faith on YouTube. What RFK Jr. gets right/wrong. I don't really have time to watch the video right now. It's an hour and 11 minutes, but I do think RFK is kind of a grifter, I would agree. But the thing is, I do like how he's anti-establishment, and I really like those who fight the establishment, so that's why I kind of like him. I'd probably support Marianne Williamson over him in the Democratic primary, probably Joe Exotic as well, but I do like how he's kind of sticking it to the system. Even though, his last name, he's very, very establishment, from a very establishment family. That's important to remember as well. U.S. can do well by doing good and opening our doors to Chinese immigration. From Reason.com, and I would agree with that. It's from where my circles work. I would agree with that. Yeah. Then we have I think that's about it. I think I'm gonna make another post though. Elite journalists love Big Brothers from Reason, and that's the new Reason article from earlier today. It was posted at 7 a.m. by JD Tosile, or I don't know how to pronounce that last name. But yeah, I would definitely say that elite journalists do love Big Brother and pushing for censorship, especially when it suits the current narrative. So that's my thoughts there. People love censorship when it suits the narrative. They hate it when it doesn't, but that's why we gotta support free speech as much as possible. And yeah, I think that's why, we really gotta support freedom of expression as well. If you don't like the speech someone makes or the expression someone makes, you're always free to stigmatize it, but as long as you're not hurting anyone else, I think you should be able to do that. And I think we're going to wrap it up there, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.